The Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, the ACC, they've all got brand new members this week. Which one of those brand new members is going to have the most successful season in their new conference?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. Happy Friday. Happy day after July 4th to you. Hopefully you enjoyed some fireworks and didn't get on a, what is it, Andy, a Ferris wheel while you're having whatever. A
nice topical reference from a 90s movie.
And lot reference. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. And we want to remind you that you can get every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Special shout out to all of you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. So glad that you're all here with us. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sport stops sportsing like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Andy, we thought it would be fun here coming off of the July 4th holiday to have a little mailbag episode. So we got some fun questions to get to, some college basketball related, some actually July 4th related, summer related. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to talk about schools transitioning to a new power conference, Zach Edey's ascension, and much more. So Andy, let's get right into it because we have a tendency to get long-winded on these things. This first question comes from Brett, and Brett says, which school in a new power conference will have the best season? Andy, a couple things here. Brett didn't give us any parameters for how do you determine best season, so you get to decide that in your answer. I'll also mention there are 13 such schools. In the ACC, it's Cal, SMU, and Stanford. Big 12, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah. Big 10, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, and SEC is Oklahoma and Texas. Andy Patton, who you going with?
Yeah, I think we can safely rule out the ACC editions. I think that's the easiest way of like, nope,
I literally just spit all over my computer screen when you said that. I'm going to wipe that down while you talk.
Cal and Stanford, not particularly great basketball programs, and traveling across the country is not going to be good for them. SMU, not going to do it. I think outside of that, you're looking at basically the rest of the Pac-12, former Pac-12, and then you're looking at Texas and Oklahoma. And I think the most successful program in the Pac-12 historically and recently has been Arizona. And so I think Arizona is the obvious kind of first answer here. It's a tough transition into the Big 12, but Tommy Lloyd's team is ready. They've made some very solid transfer portal additions this offseason. They brought in Toby Awaka from Tennessee. They got a couple mid-major guys, Trey Townsend coming from Oakland. They get Caleb Love back. Of course, that's going to be huge. Some developmental guys who are going to take a step forward. KJ Lewis, Krivis, their big man from Lithuania. Like, I think this Arizona team is very good. I think they're still going to finish like 5th, maybe 6th in the Big 12, but they're also potentially going to be like a top 10 or top 15 team in the entire country. That's just how ridiculous the Big 12 is. I think other teams that could be in this conversation, I think Texas ends up in this conversation. I think they're also, we talked about this on Monday's show, I think Texas is, with the addition of Arthur Kaluma, probably a borderline top 5 team in the SEC, but being around a top 5 team in the SEC and being around a top 5 team in the Big 12, those are good spots to be. And I think you look at the Big 10 editions, I'm intrigued by Oregon and the roster that they have. I'm intrigued by UCLA. They've made a lot of moves this offseason after a disappointing year last year. But I'm less likely to think that they're going to, they may finish higher in the Big 10 standings than Arizona finishes in the Big 12, like Oregon finishing 4th in the Big 10 versus Arizona finishing 5th or 6th even in the Big 12. Like, if that's your definition, then sure, that's a little different. But I think Arizona is going to be higher in the net. I think they're going to be higher in the Ken Pom. I think they're going to be seeded higher in the NCAA tournament. And assuming that those are the metrics, give me Arizona with Texas next, and then Oregon, UCLA, probably the teams right after that.
Andy, I'm like, first off, I think I've got my computer wiped down from spewing my tea that I was drinking all over it, laughing at your ACC joke. So hopefully I didn't ruin my computer. We'll find out here if I just glitch out while we're talking. I honestly don't know that I would go anywhere any different than you. I think Arizona is, to me, kind of the clear front runner with this, with Texas as the dark horse, like just depending on how the pieces fit together, kind of like, as you said, we talked about on Monday. And then, to me, after that, it's Oregon and UCLA. So I'm legitimately aligned with you on that. If this was last year, I would have put Colorado in there, but they lost essentially all of that talent. So I let's not waste time. I am in alignment with you.
Well, let's see if we agree on this next question here as well. This one comes from our Discord channel. It's from user go_boilers20. Underscore Blake, long Discord name there, Blake. Blake says, how impressive has Zach Edey's rise been? Took a Purdue team to the national championship against a juggernaut UConn team that had 4 starters get drafted in the NBA. He dominated Donovan Clingan, who is regarded as the best defensive center in the draft. Memphis is going to be very happy with their selection. Yeah, the Zach Edey story is one of those stories that I think is just extremely impressive. And I don't think you can spend enough time talking about it. Like it's just a really fun, dynamic story from his kind of where he was in high school to where he is now. Isaac, what are your kind of thoughts on Zach Edey's rise?
I think the beginning of Blake's question was, how impressive has Zach Edey's rise been? My answer is very impressive.
Very impressive.
Yeah, no, legitimately, from like just. I hope people have finally come around to just getting rid of that dumb narrative that all he is big. Zach Edey is a very, very good basketball player. And I hope that he just continues to prove people wrong at the NBA level, because to do it, to at times have to carry a Purdue team, like especially his junior year, when had a freshman Braden Smith, a freshman Fletcher Lawyer, and just willing that team to where they got to with that #1 seed. And then this year, it felt like he had more, those guys rose and helped him more, but he continued to get better, Andy. And I think that's the thing, is it didn't just sit right there where it was. And so Zach Edey continued to grow. He continued to dominate. I thought something that impressed me a ton this year was that it felt like everyone around him and everyone around college basketball made a big kerfuffle, I don't know how to say that word, about how he was officiated or wasn't officiated. And I appreciated that he just went out and played and didn't make a thing of it, right? Like that alone says a lot to me about this young man, who he is. I love seeing his mom always along for the ride. Boy, it has been Zach Edey's been one of my favorites to watch come along. Andy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty similar. I think Zach Edey is going to force NBA teams to change their plans when he is in the game. He's going to force them to either roster bigger players or be prepared to play the bigger guys they have, maybe guys who aren't as mobile, maybe guys who aren't necessarily a part of their day-to-day plans. If they're playing Memphis, it's going to force them to utilize those players more, or try to space the floor more, or do things a little bit differently. And obviously, this happens so often with NBA draft prospects. People really, really hone in and focus on the negatives. And with Zach Edey, so much of the conversation coming into the draft was, you got to play him in drop coverage. He's not great. Lateral mobility isn't great. He's not going to be a switchable defender or whatever. He doesn't have an outside shot. But it's like people focus on that instead of focusing on the fact that if he gets the ball down low, there are not NBA caliber defenders who can stop him. Like, he is that good and that dominant with the ball in his hands, and that is going to cause problems. I'm incredibly excited to see what his NBA career looks like. I'm incredibly excited to see him partnered with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark in that Memphis front court. I think there's a lot of reasons that there's optimism for that to work. I think Ja Morant can throw up whatever shot he wants around the rim, because if he's not making it, he's got somebody to clean that up on the offensive glass. And I'm very excited to see how that pans out for Zach Edey, because I think this is a really good fit for him career-wise, and I think he's gonna have a lot of success. Well, Isaac, we got more mailbag questions coming up. We're going to talk about whether you'd rather be on a team returning most of their roster or a team that's putting together a brand new roster. And we're going to get to that and more coming up in just a second. But first, I want to tell you all about today's sponsor, eBay Motors. Folks, passion, drive, patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what helps keep your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. Plus, with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your car every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, folks, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that W. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, Isaac, continuing on here with this mailbag edition of the Locked On College Basketball Podcast as we get into the weekend, the holiday weekend here. These next two questions come from GU Big Rig on our Discord channel. GU Big Rig says, for the 24-25 season, would you rather be on a team like Kansas, Gonzaga, or Iowa State, who largely stayed together, or be on a team like Kentucky and Arkansas, who have completely different teams from last year? Isaac, what do you think?
Okay, Andy, I was trying to figure out what the approach was to this, because GU wasn't clear if it's like you're already part of that team or if like you're transferring in or a freshman coming in. If I was already part of that team, I'll answer it that way and say that I would want to be on the team with the consistency. Part of that is just for me as a person. I love community that's already built, and I love being part of that and growing together, learning together, just deepening relationships. Maybe that sounds hokey or cheesy, but it's just like kind of just how I enjoy living my life. So just even at a personal level, I'd rather be part of a team that has stayed together. But even at the basketball level, my answer would be the same for that. And I think we've seen that trajectory so much, Andy, like the last, what would we say, half decade or so, where the teams that are winning, the teams that are hanging around the longest in March and in early April are these teams that either have experienced veterans, have, mostly guys that have stuck together. Maybe you add a piece through the portal, another piece through high school recruiting to just, round things out. But these guys that just innately know each other, know where you want the pass, know how to feed a post entry, whatever it is. And so that's what I would want to be part of, Andy, if it was a team that I was already a part of. What about you?
Yeah, I think similarly. We talked about this on a recent episode of the show when we had Evan Miyakawa on as a guest, and his research in terms of what teams that are winning right now are doing. And a big part of it is having 50+% of your minutes retained, scoring retained, minutes retained. I think it's scoring, but having the majority of your players who are on your roster be guys who were there the previous year. That is what matters. That is what is helping drive winning in a significant way in the college level in this era. And we've quoted this before, kind of jokingly, and Trilly Donovan on Twitter, who says the best gets are the ones you already have. And that is kind of true. Just looking at the nature of college basketball, is retaining your talent is more important than bringing in new talent. And I think to answer the question, like, I would rather be on a team for a lot of the same reasons you mentioned personally, of like having camaraderie with teammates and more familiarity with the system, and not only the system, but like my specific role and my teammates' role. I know where so-and-so is going to be because I played with him all of last year, and this is where he goes and this is what he does, versus a new player. Like, I may know where they're supposed to be, but do they know where they're supposed to be? Or do they do things a little bit differently? Do they come off that screen differently? Do they, whatever, like minute subtle things that when you watch teams that are new, that have been put together, via the portal, you see mistakes like that. A guy is a step slow on a pass and throws it out of bounds, or turns to swing the ball to somebody who's not there. Like those kind of things that get ironed out early in the year. But the teams that have more continuity going into the season are more prepared for the year. They win games earlier, and they seem to have more success, according to a lot of Evan's research. So for me, I would rather be on a team that has more of that continuity. But again, it depends. Like, would I rather have stayed on a Louisville team if that whole team that was Kenny Payne's last roster stayed together, or would I rather be on Pat Kelsey's Louisville team that is completely new? Like, of course, I'd rather be on the new team. Like, so it does depend. Like a team staying together that wasn't very good is not necessarily a good thing either. So there's obviously going to be changes to those questions depending on the team, the situation, and various other things. But by and large, give me a team that has more familiarity playing together than a team that doesn't.
Yep. And if I was a newcomer, I think my answer might actually be the opposite, right? Like if I was transferring in or a high schooler, I'd like to come in and be part of something brand new. Like you said, helping Pat Kelsey grow Louisville, helping, you know, whatever it may be, something like that. And so it's fun to think about the different types of scenarios. And as you said, Andy, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. So love to see that. All right, Andy, let me ask you this question. This also, as you said, comes from GU Big Rig. Over the last 15 to 20 years, the Mountain West, West Coast Conference, American, and A10 have been multi-bid conferences in the NCAA tournament. Yet, over the past couple of years, with conference realignment, NIL, and the transfer portal, and I'll throw in COVID eligibility as well, most mid-major teams' conferences have taken massive hits. So, what can mid-major teams / conferences do to stay competitive in the future? Andy, this is a very interesting question.
It is. And I think that the specific conferences mentioned here haven't really taken the hits as much as I think some of the other conferences, like smaller major conferences. The Mountain West had 6 teams in the NCAA tournament this past year. They've struggled to have sustained success in the NCAA tournament. That has been well documented, but they put 6 teams in the tournament. The WCC has consistently put 2 and has, you know, a couple of years ago with San Francisco put 3. Like the American S, obviously FAU went on that. Well, actually FAU joined the conference.
They were conference,
but we saw a great year from South Florida. We've seen like Memphis have continued success. The A10 has not been as consistent with multiple teams as they used to be. That is fair. Dayton has kind of dominated, but we saw some really fun performances from some other teams there as well. Like, I think that those conferences are finding ways to succeed because they have enough of a track record of putting players in the NBA that they're able to retain their talent in the transfer portal and not lose it as much as, like, you know, those smaller conferences like, you know, the Big Sky and the Horizon and the MAC and whatever. Like, those conferences are getting just decimated every single year. The top 60% of their talent is gone in the transfer portal. Like, they're conference teams, first team, second team, third team. You go look at any small major conference, 2/3 of those guys are gone every single year. That's not happening as much in these kind of like mid-major conferences. Like these conferences are actually sustaining pretty okay. Like they're doing, like the WCC has gotten strong this offseason. They've lost some key players. They always do, but like, I think it's really impacting those smaller major conferences and what they can do to stay competitive. I think you have to recruit with the knowledge that your players may not stick around. And I talked to Tobias Bass recently on The Athletic on the show, and he said that they're doing that. That these small major coaches are going to players and saying, "Hey, come here for a year. You're waiting to go to Texas, but Texas isn't offering you a scholarship. We're offering you a scholarship right now. We can't get you a ton of NIL money, but we can get you the ball. You're going to play 32 minutes a night. You go out, you shoot 40% from 3, you score 16 points a game. Texas is going to offer you $750,000 next year." And like, I don't love that that's how coaches are recruiting, but I get it. Like, you either do that as a small major coach or you don't get good players. Like, those are your options. And then you know what happens if you don't get good players? You lose your job. Like, you have to do that. And I think that is a direction we're seeing. I think there are other things they can do, you know, poach aggressively from the D2 level, look at junior college players, like go aggressively after non-top 100 high school recruits. Like there are options, but ultimately you have to accept that you may not be able to retain your key talent. So the best thing that you can do is still find a way to get it. Get those players on your team for at least a year. Maybe you can keep them for 2. And then, of course, again, the other thing is the players who are leaving the high major programs, who are getting kind of pushed out. See if you can land some of those guys and try to rebuild their value that way. But it's a tough go right now for those smaller major conferences.
Yeah, Andy, with the specific conferences in question, I think the thing is, one of those where we look at and say that cliche statement of necessity is the mother of invention, where it's like, what can we do to think outside the box, but legally, right? But what's not legally in terms of NCAA legality. The nice thing is there's a lot more NCAA legality than there was previously, right? And so if I'm whatever school, say I'm St. Louis, and I'm in the A10 and I've got some rich Catholic booster that loves our program, it's like, you just need somebody, right? Like we look at Arkansas right now, and they haven't been this like hotbed hive of getting in all this talent, but just because of the money they have available and the people that care about the program, they've got untapped numbers of money. And so any school around the nation that has that money, can do it. And so I think that's the beauty of NIL is go find money, raise money. You like, and it doesn't have to be the head coach. Like find somebody in your advancement department and say, teach us how to be support raisers so that we can do that for our program. So you got to think outside the box, but you think, what is the box that the NCAA has given us? Where are the shadowy corners of the box where we don't know? And then you lean into it. So I think there are possibilities there. And so far, I mean, as you said, you know, Mountain West had 6 teams in last year. So you just keep plugging along and see what's going to happen. Andy, you said it earlier, but it is the 4th of July weekend coming up right now, belated with the actual 4th of July being yesterday. We've got a few questions that have come in about our favorite holiday treats for July 4th, as well as our favorite movies related to 4th of July or America. We're going to answer those questions. A few fun lists coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Gametime. Going to MLB games in the summer is one of my favorite all-time things. I know Andy loves going to baseball games as well. The game, the food, the people, everything that's part of the experience. And I'm excited to make all new memories this summer at the ballpark. Thankfully, we don't have to sweat high-priced last-minute tickets because of Gametime, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. In fact, prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. And they do that with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and a lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Andy, the Home Run Derby's coming up, something I've always wanted to go to but never have. It's Monday, July 15th, about 10 days away from now. Globe Life Field there in the DFW area. I found the cheapest ticket, Andy. The cheapest ticket I found is $157, the cheapest ticket. But I found one just up the first baseline, lower level, $380 each. That's not bad to get in the door and have a great time. So if you want to get in on that, you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, Gametime has you covered. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Andy, to wrap up the show, we've got 2 fun list questions, both relating to July 4th, Independence Day, and America in general. And so here's the first one. This one comes from Sebastian. Sebastian says, in light of July 4th, what are your 5 favorite USA-related movies? Doesn't have to be specific to the 4th of July, just to America. Andy, I know we've already created lists. What you got?
Yeah, I went with a lot of movies from the late 90s, early 2000s. I guess that was the time period where those movies struck a chord. Starting with Independence Day, I know it's the obvious pick, but I've always loved that movie. Try to rewatch it whenever I can, usually around Independence Day, as that makes sense. Con Air was the first movie I picked for this list. I know it's not technically 4th of July related, but it sure feels like it is. That is one of my absolute favorite movies. Love getting a chance to watch that one. Had to go with a couple sports related movies, so went with Remember the Titans. I think it counts. It's a fantastic movie. Again, an all-time
American history, definitely.
Yeah, it's American history. So I think we can count that. And then Rocky, which again, true underdog story, right? You got to love Rocky. You got to love the story from your rags to riches, Philadelphia kid. It's a fantastic one. It's been a really long time since I've watched Rocky. I think that's the only movie on this list that's not from like between 1996 and 2000. I think that's where the rest of these movies all were in that time period, except Rocky, obviously, from the 70s. And then my last movie, an actual war movie, Saving Private Ryan. Hard to watch multiple times because it is a really distressing movie, but it is one of the best war movies. For me, war movies are either good or really bad. Like there's really not if a war movie is not very good, I usually find them really hard to watch or get through. And there's a lot of bad war movies, but Saving Private Ryan is one of the absolute best, and a movie worth watching at least once for anybody who has not seen it. It is an intense movie, but a really fun one. Man, great cast too. Really good cast.
Unbelievable cast. So many people, and you watch it now, and it's like, oh, that guy went on to be in that thing.
Even exactly. Yeah. Vin Diesel is in freaking Saving Private Ryan. That blows my mind.
Gosh, I love it. Andy, I think we had a couple crossover, maybe one actually, but not too many. I had to get an honorable mention in, and that's The Sandlot, which, funny enough, we referenced at the beginning of the show, that iconic 4th of July scene where they're playing baseball under the lights with the fireworks. So good. Number 5 on my list, you had an airplane movie. So do I. Air Force One, Harrison Ford's the president. What a bunch of like Russian separatists from, I don't remember what's happening, but they want him to free somebody that's a prisoner. And at the end, of course, Harrison Ford wins and he says, "Get off my plane." It's a whole thing. Andy, number 4, if this was like serious movies, this would probably be number 1. It's one of my favorite all-time movies, Apollo 13. I absolutely love this movie. Same like Remember the Titans, American history, so it works. Number 3, Andy, D2. The Mighty Ducks. In this one, it's very America related because the Olympics are coming up, y'all, in about a month. And I think they go to like the Junior World Olympics or something. And they bring, it's the original team. And then they bring in some other players from around the country. And Iceland, is that the bad guys that they got to?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, staying on the ice and with the Olympics, Miracle is the next one on my list, Andy. I love this movie. I had always loved that story of us beating the USSR in the semifinals there. But man, it being brought to life in this way was a lot of fun. Loved the acting and all that. And the number 1, you already mentioned it, but Independence Day. I'll never forget Bill Pullman's monologue there before they go and "Hello, boys, I'm back," as Dennis Quaid, Cousin Eddie, or whatever his name is, flies back up into the ship at the very end. What a great movie that one was. That's my 5th.
Those are fantastic picks. Really good choices there. I don't really have much to add on that. I think that's a good group. I have a couple movies that I love that are Olympic related, but I couldn't put them on here because they're not about the United States in the Olympics. I love Cool Runnings, but that's not an American movie. It's about Jamaica. And a more recent one is Eddie the Eagle, which is a fantastic movie that I don't think a lot of people have heard of, but it's about a ski jumper from Britain. So it is not U.S. related as well. We got one more question.
Wait,
on
Andy,
our show.
Did you watch that? Triggers for me. Did you watch Boys in the Boat? Have you seen that or read that?
So I've read the book, and I have not seen the movie yet. I think it just pretty recently came out. But
it did. We just watched it a week or two ago, and it's really good. And that actually is American Olympics.
Yeah, it was a good one.
There you go. Anyway,
good job. What up, George Clooney? I think he's the one who directed that.
You see the EP? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Final question of the show, sticking with the same 4th of July theme. Mason asks, July 4th is this week. What are your 5 favorite things to eat or drink at a 4th of July cookout? Isaac, get us going. What do you love to have on the 4th?
Okay, I'll go for like the entree. I like a hot dog bar situation where it's like you got hot dogs and brats and a whole bunch of varieties of like build your own hot dog situation. Big fan of that. So give me that. For a drink, I'll go sweet tea. I'm a Georgia boy, man. There is no such like the fact that a waitress would ask me or a waiter would ask me sweet or unsweet is an abomination. There is no such thing as unsweet tea. Number 3, classic. Got to go some watermelon. Love it. Number 2, Andy, fresh corn on the cob. You roll it in a stick of butter to get it nice and dripping, and then get you some salt and pepper on there, and chef's kiss. Number 1 for me, though, Andy, is nothing beats homemade ice cream. You know, the hand churned with the rock salt around the edge. So unbelievably good. Give me some homemade ice cream.
Love it. What about you? Yours are somewhat themes towards where you live, and so are mine. I have a very Pacific Northwest list here, starting with the Seattle dog. For those of you who do not know what a Seattle dog is, Isaac had a hot dog bar situation. If that existed, here's what I'd put on mine to make a Seattle dog. They have cream cheese, which I know sounds weird, but it is not. It is fantastic. It is cream cheese, it is grilled onions, and it is sriracha. It sounds very bizarre, but I promise you, if you feel like it, try it. It's fantastic. Obviously, located in Seattle specifically, that's where I've had them. Really good stuff. Otherwise, I have IPA on the list. Again, sticking with the Pacific Northwest. We're going to go with the Pacific Northwest style beer there. Mac salad. Love me some Mac salad. I just had very generically a burger on here, but I think like for me, like cheeseburger, if we're not doing a dog, like just you can't go wrong, right? You can't go wrong.
What cheese, Andy? What cheese you putting on there?
Just cheddar. Really boring, but you know what? If it ain't broke, that's right. That's right. And then I love chicken skewers with a ton of veggies on there. Throw like zucchini on there, throw peppers on there, mushrooms on there, whatever it may be. Load those bad boys up. I'm terrible at making them on my own because I can never flip them at the right time. I'll either have warm veggies and completely nuked chicken or the opposite. So I like buying them from the store and just throwing them on there because that's a lot easier. But definitely love having skewers as part of the meal as well.
So why don't we just make a chicken skewer and a veggie skewer and then mix and match at the end?
Right, because then it's no fun when it doesn't look cool on your plate because it's not all skewed together. But yeah, I'm with you. That's a lot easier.
Yeah. I like a little seasoning on there too. Why not?
That's true.
Get it going.
Folks, thank you so much for listening to us today. We love the show. We love getting a chance to do mailbags. We don't do them as often as we'd like, but if you want to ask questions, if you want to get involved in mailbag episodes, definitely join our Discord channel if you have not done so yet. Like I've said, it's free to join. Link in the show notes, audio and video platforms. Go find the link, click there. You'll come hang out with us. Can ask your questions. We'll get them out here on these weekend shows. Thank you again for listening, folks. Have a fantastic and safe holiday weekend for those of you who are going to be out celebrating. Hopefully you get some fun food at your cookouts, get to watch some fun holiday themed movies. As always, apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats. And until next week, peace out.